Hi there, Mala here, and welcome to Module 1 of the Orientation and Induction program. I am absolutely delighted that you have decided to join our Psych Professionals family. It is so exciting when we have a new clinician come on board, and we are so happy to have you join us in helping people live the life that they deserve. And of course, it is our hope that taking you through this really comprehensive orientation induction process, that we are able to allow you into our world of private practice in the easiest flow-based manner as possible. We are very passionate here at the Psych Professionals about private practice, and we want you to enjoy every minute that you spend with us so that you can learn to love it just as much as we do. So let's get stuck into it. Just very quickly, who am I? My name is Gerda, of course. I am first and foremost a clinical psychologist by trade, and I'm also the founder of the Psych Professionals. So the Psych Professionals has been in existence for more than 10 years now, and a couple of years into the practice I also started the online arm of the business called yourpsychonline.com, and then a couple of years further in I started Private Practice Success Australia. So these days my day job is to be an allied health private practice business coach and mentor. And of course, other than all the psychology and allied health related stuff that I do, I'm also a mom. I've been married for many, many years, and I'm a mom to 3 young kiddies, as you can see there, Hanno, Cassidy, and Ethan. So that is a little bit about me. So let's get stuck into how we can help you make a great transition into private practice. All right. First and foremost, it's really important for us that you know what is the vision and what is that mission that drives us on a daily basis. Alrighty, so when we make decisions at an executive level, so when I have to make really strategic decisions for the practice, I'm always keeping in mind what is our vision that we've set for ourselves as a practice. And I wanted to share that with you. So our vision is to provide an integrative, evidence-based, best practice mental health service. Integrative really meaning that we really are excited to have OTs on board, speechies, dietitians, whatever is applicable at the stage that our practice is at. It has to be evidence-based, of course, and it has to be best practice because we want to provide the best possible service out there. And we provide that to children, adolescents, mature adults, couples and families. And we want to do that within a professional yet caring and very welcoming setting. And these words that I've highlighted here in yellow, it is my hope that as you have your first day and as you spend more time with us, that you will start to notice those things happening within the practice, that you will notice how welcoming, for example, reception is with our clients, how caring our team is at all levels with the clients and even the referrers, and also, most importantly, when we deal with one another as a team. So that is our vision. So next up, our mission then. How do we make all of this happen? And we do that by providing an integrative, focused and very streamlined mental health care service, which is easy to access and reliable for both our clients and referrers. Now, for example, accessibility is really important to us. You know, in the early years when I started the practice, I was working, the normal 9 to 5, and then I had to think, is this really congruent? Is this in alignment to the mission that we have to provide as much access as possible for our clients? And that is when we then made that decision to go, Well, actually, it's not. It's actually very limited. You know, a lot of people are in jobs, for example, where they cannot come between 9 and 5, either because they feel they're being bullied by their boss, or maybe they're ashamed because they want to go and see a psychologist, whatever reason. You know, they might not be able to come in between 9 and 5, and that is why we decided to extend our operating hours, for example, to increase access. And again, I really want you to start noticing as you get involved in us, as you learn our practices, our policies and procedures, that you will see that they are all linked with our vision and the mission that we have for the practice. But at the end of the day, because I know the vision and the mission, I'm not going to ask you to recite it or learn it off by heart. You know, it's a very, I guess, corporate-like in terms of, you know, what is it that we want to do. But if I had to really boil it down to something that's easy to remember, it is this. We help people live the life they deserve. That is what we do here at the practice. That is what we do here at the Psych Professionals on a daily basis. Everything that we do, every decision that we make is geared towards achieving that goal, helping people live the lives they deserve. Most importantly, I guess, and first and foremost, our clients, but not only our clients, also our team, our staff, our clinicians, and our referrers, everybody involved in us in our lives, every person whose life we might touch, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, advertently or inadvertently, we want to help them live better lives. So if that's something that you are aligned to, then you have made the right decision to come on board with us. Alrighty, so let's get into first day hacks. It is really our goal that when you come in for your first day, that you've done all this training, which is why we try and be really organized and have it all set up like this so that you can watch it in the comfort of your own home, because I want you to be able to come in on the first day having done all of this, having answered all those questions that is in your mind, so that when you walk in, all you need to do is focus on the client and providing the best possible support to that person. All right, so here with some first day hacks. First and foremost, beware the walk of shame. I did not term that term, by the way. One of my clinicians came up with it, and we call it the walk of shame. You know what that is? That is when you arrive at the practice and you've got your stuff hanging over your arms, your bags, maybe your briefcase or your laptop or whatever, and your food and your lunch, and your client is already sitting in the waiting room waiting on you. That is called the walk of shame. So we really try and arrive at the practice before our clients, okay? Because we do not want the clients to think that we are unprepared for their service, that we are unprepared for their session, that you come in there in a flurry and it's like, oh, I'm late, I'm sorry, blah. That doesn't fly at our practice. So no walks of shame. So even, for example, if you are doing a PM shift that starts at 2:30 and you know that another psychologist are in the room before you and they're only finishing up like 10 minutes before you're due to come in, we encourage you to still arrive at the practice early. All right, we have a space at each practice, an extra desk where you can settle in, maybe have a coffee, have a tea with one of your other colleagues, maybe have a chat to reception and just get settled in, because we want you to be comfortable. We don't want you to be rushed. Offering a rushed service does not align with best practice service that we want to give to our clients. And we really want to show the client that they are important and that we are not going to come in and start our day rushed. And it's also important for you as a clinician to have that calm sense of calm. Have maybe, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to just sit and be mindful of where you're at, the clients that you're seeing on that day. Really encourage you to be on time and arrive early. The other thing that is really important for your first day is to make sure that you know Power Diary and that you've looked at it. Now, I might call this first day hacks, but I don't want you to implement this stuff only on first days, okay? You do it on the first day, and if you do it, you're gonna have an amazing first day. But I want you to make this a habit. I've been doing this at the Psych Professionals. I'm not even talking of before then, but at the Psych Professionals here in Australia, I've been doing it for more than 10 years, all right? And I know what works and what doesn't work. And I've looked at other clinicians at how they struggle over time. And this is the stuff that works. And I really want you to make it a habit. This habit that I'm teaching you today and over time is what's going to make you what I refer to as being private practice fit, where you can come in and do this every day and love what you're doing, not burn out. All right, very important. These hacks are, yes, it's important for the clients, the reputation of the business, but very importantly for you, because if you aren't able to sustain yourself in terms of being there for your clients, look after yourself, you're not going to love what you do. And we want you to live the life you deserve. And that means, being a psychologist, OT, speech, whatever it is that you do, and loving every moment of it. All right, so you want to make Power Diary your compass. So a compass is really, it gives you direction. It tells you what's north, south, east, and west, all that stuff. So it gives you direction, and Power Diary that has all the bookings for the day gives you direction in terms of who are you seeing, how old are they, what are they presenting with, what type of referral are they on, etc., etc. So irrespective of whether you're doing the morning or the PM shift, you really need to go through the diary and go, who's been booked in? Okay, what's the presenting problem? Do I need to do any preparation for them? What do I need to know? Is there an amount, a service booked in? If there ain't stuff in there that you need to know, you need to speak to reception. Maybe call them up, email them, or speak them if you are going to be early at the practice. All right, it really sets up your day so that you're prepared once again and know what is going on. I would also double check, especially on your very, very first day, double click on that client appointment and see whether they actually have pre-booked appointments. Because if they haven't pre-booked, it's going to be part of your job as the clinician to encourage them to pre-book all the sessions that they have on their referral. So reception will generally get them to book that in. Sometimes people are a bit tentative, and that's okay. But once they've come in and they've had that first session, you've established rapport engagement, you need to know whom of those clients haven't pre-booked appointments, so that you can walk them out to reception and make sure that that happens. All right. And then at the end of the day, you also want to go back to Power Diary and go, okay, maybe somebody ended up being a no-show. Has that been updated in Power Diary? Yes or no? Because Power Diary is really the snapshot of what is going on in your caseload at any one point in time. If the whole practice were to burn down, we will have Power Diary because they've got 2 backup servers actually, and it will tell us exactly who we are seeing, why we are seeing them, how many sessions they've had, when they reports at you, all that type of stuff. So you want to make sure this 100% up to date. And we once had this lovely child psychologist at the practice, Connie, and her clients were so well managed. And I one day asked Connie, how do you keep your clients consistently coming through? You've got the busiest diary in the practice. You never have openings in your diary. What do you do? And she said, well, what I do is I check Power Diary before the day, and then before I go home, I go and I double click on each client that I saw that day. And if they have not booked another appointment within the next 2 weeks, I immediately tell reception to get onto it. So she was really good at making sure that her clients book in and ensure that they have that next appointment booked. The thing is, as a clinician, you have a responsibility and a duty of care towards your current clients first and foremost. we at the practice get a hell of a lot of referrals, if I can use that word. So reception will be looking at diaries, and if you've got openings in your diaries, you will be booking new clients. Now, if your current clients haven't pre-booked appointments, you're not going to have space for everyone. And your first priority and duty of care is always your current clients. But you need to therefore encourage them, not just encourage, strongly recommend, tell them basically that they need to pre-book their appointments so that they can have that consistent support. Because it's only through coming through those doors consistently that they can make progress. Make sense? Cool. Alrighty. So some more first day hacks. Very important thing, greeting clients in the waiting room. Whenever you walk into the waiting room, again, whether this is first day or day 1026, we hope you make it there, you better. Doesn't matter what day it is. If you walk into reception, okay, don't be a snob with your nose in the air. I hate that. I want you to say hi, I want you to say hello to the clients that is sitting in the practice. We are, again, remember, we want to be welcoming, we want to be caring. That's part of our vision and our mission. Please live that every day. Say hello to the clients, all right? We want them to feel that they're not just a number. We want them to know that they're not invisible. We want them to know that they are good enough, and it's so easy to do that. Even though they're not your client, just by saying hello, just by giving them a smile, saying hello to the child on the floor playing with puzzles. Go, that looks interesting. Little things like that can make such a big difference to the clients when they're just sitting in the waiting room in terms of their experience of the mental health industry. Remember, we've got a responsibility to reduce the stigma around mental health, and it is sometimes as easy as saying hello. Now, back to your client that you may be meeting for the very first time. Alrighty. So when you go out and you are an adult client, there's going to be a specific way of doing things. If you see kiddies, there's a specific way of doing it. All right. I think it's really important to, when you walk out, again, you're going to be on time. All right. You're going to be on time. You can even be early. You just can't be late. You're going to introduce yourself to the client. Make sure that you know your client's name. Make sure that you know why they're coming in. So that you can say, hey, Joanne, good to hear, nice to meet you. I always shake a client's hand. Now, I know this might be a bit of a controversial topic. I'm not sure how you guys got taught here in Australia. I didn't study in Australia, but I've been doing this in Australia for more than 10 years. And it makes such a difference by putting out your hand, because immediately there is that physical contact, and it's a way of saying that you are good enough for me to touch you. Okay, if the client refuses, or they, have a reaction, which, by the way, I've never ever experienced. However, even if it happens, don't take it personally. Okay, remember, our clients come in with issues. That actually tells you something very important therapeutically that you're going to have to address later on. But I find it is such a way of showing unconditional positive regard. When I just started working here in Australia, I was working out in Ipswich, and I sometimes had people coming to see me, because that was under the personal support program. So these were job seekers and were mandatory for them to come in. So if they were on the personal support program, they didn't have to look for jobs for a 2-year period, as long as they came in, had these mandatory sessions once a month. And sometimes I would literally be shaking oily hands when they're coming for their first appointment, and they would tell me that they just got out from underneath an engine that they were fixing. But I was accepted as a foreigner speaking with a very difficult accent because I showed that unconditional positive regard. I also once had a clinician that was really struggling with engaging her clients in session 1, and what we found is that clients would be falling out in session 2 or 3. And then what I started to do is I actually made sure that when she had new clients coming in, I would be in reception just to have a look at how she did her thing of introducing herself. And she's a lovely psychologist. She's a clinical psych. She ended up doing her clinical registrar program with us. She was very well presented. And then I just noticed, I guess what I was seeing was that there might be the potential of clients thinking that, she's got all her shit together. She's absolutely perfect, beautiful, well-dressed, very professional. And I wanted her to make some type of connection. So I encouraged her and I said, I really want you to start shaking the hands of your clients. And I'm talking many years ago now. And she started doing that. And guess what happened? Her dropout rates almost vanished within 2 weeks, just because she was starting to give people her hand. She didn't have to change the way she worked. She didn't have to change the way she dressed. All she did is she put out her hands when she introduced herself. Remember making eye contact and introduce yourself. A lot of people, when they put out their hands, what they do is they look at the hands, make the eye contact. Very important. Alrighty, so I want to challenge you to do that. Okay, so that's for our adult clients. Now, what about the kiddies? Kiddies are very important. And I, again, speak from experience. I also speak from a point of view of not only being a psychologist, but a parent and a mom of 3. So it's very important that if you go out and you've got a child coming in with a parent for the very first time, and the child is in attendance with mom and dad, or both ideally, you want to go out, say hi to the parents, and I want you to bend down, bend your legs to the child's level and say, hello, little Johnny, how are you? My name is Gerda. So looking forward to meeting you today. You really want to acknowledge the child, okay? That goes such a long way towards starting to establish rapport with the child. But you know what? If you do that, like that, you've got the parents on your side. Because if you can show me that you care about my kids, you've won me over already, because that's what I want. I want somebody that cares for my kids, that's not scared of their snotty noses and grabby little fingers, that coming down to their level and acknowledging them. Also, if you're doing that first intake session and reception is available at the front desk, considering the age of the child, and we've got a policy around children in the waiting room that you'll get at another time. If the child is old enough to stay in reception, please introduce them to whomever is at the front desk and say, hey Mandy, this is Ashley. She's here at the front desk. If you need anything, please ask her. Also show them, here's our toys, get out whatever you like. If you need some water, there's the water fountain. If you need to use the toilet, just let Ash know and she can take you there. I'm just going to be talking to mum and dad right down there. Just orientate the child as to where they are. All right. Again, for the parents, just communicating that with their child, just again, shows that acknowledgement that the child is important, their feelings are important, their understanding of the world is important, and it helps the child to immediately start trusting this environment that they're in. If it is a child that's either too young or has separation anxiety or something to that effect, take them into session with you. We actually have earphones at the practice that you can ask for. Get mum and dad to put a game or music on for them, or a movie on their iPhone. Who doesn't have that these days? And they can stay in the room with you if they're going to feel better that way. Or if reception's not there and the child is not old enough to sit in reception without leaving the practice, going out the front door. If they're not old enough to do that or responsible enough, take them into the session, but make sure those ears are covered. Alrighty, hope that all makes sense. It is so, so important. Never take for granted what happens in the waiting room and what an important role all of that has to play in the ultimate outcome of your client's progress. Okay, let's see what's next. Non-negotiables. Alrighty, so non-negotiables, and let me be clear, these are not negotiables. First of all, I expect excellent time management. Now, time management is actually not about managing time. Did you know that? It's not about time management. It's about self-management, okay? It's about managing me so that I can manage my time. And that's what it is. It's not time mastery even, it's self-mastery. And it comes down to habits. And that's why I'm sharing with you the habits that I know that work within private practice. So first of all, when it comes to time management, you need to be on time for your appointments. Why? Well, that's just the professional and courteous things to do. I think it's extremely disrespectful and extremely rude to be late. We are not those psychiatrists or whatever specialists in Wickham Terrace that makes you wait anything from 30 to 90 minutes for an appointment. That to me shows like bad organization, completely devaluing the time of the client or patient in their instance coming in. No go, all right? Time is the only resource that is irreplaceable, okay? Once you've lost 5 minutes, 1 minute, 30 minutes, it's gone forever, all right? And our name is the Psych Professionals, and being on time is such a big part of being professional. So you cannot run late for your sessions. No excuses, okay? Of course, you might be thinking, what if I have a suicidal client? We will speak about that at a later module, but that is the exception to the rule, and that will not even happen once a week. That might happen once every 2 months, okay? And again, that is the exception. I'm talking day-to-day basis, the clients that you are seeing. All right. So that's why we want to be on time. So what do you do if the client runs late? Okay, so let's say the client is booked for 10 o'clock, but they only arrive at 10 past 10. All you do is you need to make sure that you let reception know to call you immediately when the client arrives. So you don't then let them wait another 5 minutes, all right? You need to be out your door, collecting them in reception immediately, and you will then do the session. But you will not extend the session. This is boundaries, guys, all right? You cannot extend the session. You say welcome, you'll talk to them about why they're running late. If people, of course, are consistently running late, you need to address it therapeutically because there's something going on there. Is it that they're not organized enough? Do they need a diary? Is it like very solution-focused stuff that you need to do with them? Or, is it more like an unconscious thing where there's a pushing of boundaries? Maybe there's an avoidance thing, but they're still coming because they want to please you. So you need to address it therapeutically if it consistently happens, but you cannot extend it. That appointment will still go to 10:50. Why? Because you need to finish your case notes, upload that into Power Diary, maybe go to the toilet, maybe have something to eat, have a cup of coffee. Yes, you are important. You are not to burn out. Your self-care is important, and you need to still be on time for that 11 o'clock client that is coming in. All right, that's just how it is. So you might say, if you are feeling a tad guilty, like you sometimes might be, you might go, I'm sorry, unfortunately, I'm not in a position to extend the session, but let's see what we can get in the next 50 minutes until 40 minutes, actually, until 10:50. Alrighty, and then you just book the next appointment. It's really about going that, these are the boundaries and these are the times. All right, so what if it is a client that is coming for session number 1 and maybe they didn't do their paperwork beforehand, they've been asked to actually arrive early to get their paperwork done, and they still arrive late. So let's say it's 10 o'clock, they haven't done their paperwork at all, so no consent forms, no DASs, no confidential information forms completed. What you do, you take their forms with you, you take them straight into reception. Not reception, into your consult room. You do not leave them in reception to complete that paperwork for the next 10 to 15 minutes because it's going to feel to the client as if they didn't get the time with you that they paid for. All right? So you bring them into the session because their session starts at 10 o'clock. You sit them down. and then you ask them to do the consent form. So you will take them through the consent form, get them to only sign that form, and then ask them to wait, give it back to you, and then go, what we're going to do now, because we don't want to spend the whole of your session doing paperwork, we're going to have our session, and then at the end, I'm going to ask you to stay an extra 10 minutes in reception, complete your paperwork before you go home. Make sense? All right, because obviously you cannot start therapy unless the consent form has been signed. But having them do the consent form in the session, they still have your time and they're paying for this time. Whether they are a funded client or not, it's still payment is being received for that time. So you need to do it in the room with you. Alrighty. And I've already answered, do I extend my appointment if we start? No. Late, it's a big fat no. Even if they're 20 minutes late, you don't extend it. Even if you don't have a client after them. Did you hear that? Even if you do not have a client after them, let's say you had a cancellation or the next appointment just was never booked, you do not extend it. These are boundaries, guys, and as psychologists, we know how important that is. Okay. So that is managing your time. Now, what I will quickly say, I often find that child psychologists particularly struggle more so with time management in sessions than adult psychologists. And it's very often because they have this long questionnaire of questions that I want to ask. Now, remember, if you do not get through all your questions, do not stress. You just continue asking them in session 2. Alrighty, and don't get stressed about fitting in as many questions as possible because your clients, those parents, are going to feel like they're being shot at with a machine gun. We do not want that. Okay, that's not the type of therapy we do. Clients want to have value for their time, and I'll still share some more on that with you guys later. Alrighty, so for appointments and with paperwork, that's another non-negotiable when it comes to time management. Case notes has to be uploaded into Power Diary within 7 days of the client session. No exceptions. If I was you, I would do it on the day. All right, so you can either handwrite your notes and upload that into Power Diary, or you can directly type it into the system. My preference is to handwrite in session and then upload it. That's just my preference. Doesn't matter what your preference is, as long as it gets done, ideally on the day, but you know, we're flexible, but minimum 7 days. Now remember, it is part of the APS's ethical code of conduct that you need to engage in accurate record keeping, and this is it. It has to be done. There's no ifs and buts or maybes, whatever that saying is. It has to be done. Do not fall behind. I have seen people fall behind. It is hell to catch up. You can't remember, and it is an ethical, reportable breach. Please don't do it. Just stay on top of it. Alrighty? Cool. Okie dokie. First day boundaries. Oh, who would have thought there's so much stuff to remember for your first day? Okay? And again, it's not only first day. So let's say when we talk about setting the scene for successful therapy, you're going to do it with all your brand new clients on their first day, but every other new client that you have throughout your time with us. And setting the scene for successful therapy is so important. And it is one of those things that the so-called super shrinks does really well. And we want to share with you and show you how to do that as well. Now, why do we need to set the scene? Well, it's because sometimes people have a lot of preconceived ideas of what therapy is gonna look like, alrighty? And sometimes they've had an experience with another clinician or at another practice where stuff works differently. Okay, so we need to let them know how does it work here. It also helps to make sure that those expectations have been addressed, any preconceived ideas. It also helps to reduce the stigma around what it is all about when you come and see a psychologist. All right, so how do we set the scene of successful therapy? Well, through openly communicating with our clients and being very open, honest, transparent, but also assertive in setting that scene and doing that within a Rogerian or person-centered perspective. And we're going to get to that. So, discussing confidentiality. So once you've collected now your clients in the waiting room and you've come into the therapy room, let's say they've done all their paperwork, you still need to get the consent form, and I would always go through all the paperwork to make sure that they haven't missed anything and that everything's been done properly. All right, and then I go through the consent form with them. So let's face it, a lot of times people come rushing in for session 1 and all they do, they just either sign or they just scan the document. They don't really read it. And then we've got other people, probably with anxiety disorders, that read everything very slowly, okay? Doesn't matter how they went through it, irrespective of whether they're the scanner or the really obsessive reader, doesn't matter. You still need to go through that consent form because we want to get informed consent. There's a big difference between consent and informed consent. All right, so you're going to go through the form on page 1 and on page 2. So it's going to start off with confidentiality, and you're going to ask them, did you understand the section around confidentiality? Even if they say yes, you still have an obligation to talk them through it. So you might say, okay, so everything that we're going to talk about today and in all our subsequent sessions are confidential. Just like when you go and see your doctor who's referred you here to see me, everything is confidential except in 3 situations. So if these 3 situations occur, confidentiality can and most probably will be broken, whether you as the client consent to that or not. And these are those 3 situations, and I really need you to understand what those are before we start talking even about why it is that you're here today. And then I will talk them through those 3 situations, okay? And it's on our consent form, of course. All right, so you need to have that conversation, okay, so that when you need to act on confidentiality and engage in a possible breach, you can know 100% for certain that not only was there consent, but there was informed consent, that the client understood what that consent was all about. Got it? Cool. All right, next up in that consent form, you will find our cancellation and no-show fee policy. And again, there has to be informed consent. It is so, so powerful. We do have a cancellation fee policy, which means that we do charge clients for it. You'll get to see that as part of your other orientation induction documents as well. Now, I have done a lot of in-house research on this issue, and I have found that there's only one difference between clinicians whose clients are happy to pay cancellation fees and clinicians whose clients whinge, whine, complain, withdraw, drop out from therapy as a result of being charged cancellation fees. And guess what that is? There's only one difference. And it's not about how good the clinician is. It's not about clinician skills. It's not about clinical versus generally registered or whatever other endorsement somebody has. It's not about socioeconomic status. It is not about what practice they're at. It's about one thing and one thing only that has made the difference. And that is whether the clinician has obtained informed consent or consent. So a lot of clinicians feel uncomfortable talking about money when it comes to their clients, all right? And what they do is they just go, oh, have you read the cancellation part? Okay, you understand it? Good, great, we're good to go. So they just I don't know what's the right word. They just sweep it under the carpet because they are uncomfortable to address it. Okay, it's really important if you're uncomfortable talking about money that you deal with that in supervision. Speak to your supervisor, maybe speak to our clinical team leader, speak to whomever you need to in order to address that. When you're working in private practice, you need to be okay with knowing that you are worth being paid for. Your time is worth being paid for. Alrighty? So you might need to address that for yourself. So it's really important for you to, in that first session, stand in your own conviction and believe that it's okay to charge a cancellation fee. So you need to talk the client through the policy and why we have it. Now, together with this module 1, you will have a document that outlines an exact script, word for word, that I use with my clinical clients and that I've used effectively over the years to actually establish informed consent when it comes to cancellation fees. So much so that my clients, when they no-show, they will call up 20 minutes later and go, I completely forgot about it. I've got my credit card. I need to pay Gerda. Okay? That's how it works. That's informed consent. You need to ensure that the clients clearly understand it. And an interesting concept as well, and this is in that document, that I really want you to get this, that when a client cancels, that there's 3 people that lose out in that situation. 1, it is that client whose therapy and therefore their therapeutic outcome and results have now been delayed. 2, it's the other client that was on a cancellation list hoping to have an appointment because they had a crisis that now can't be seen. And 3, there's you. You maybe would have prepared for it. Maybe you could have left an hour earlier if you knew this person wasn't coming. You have put in time and effort. So there's 3 people that gets affected by it. So it's really important that we make sure that every client gives informed consent and that they truly understand how this all works. Cool? Good. Alrighty. First day, client expectations. So let's look at the importance of setting and addressing these. Now, very often when I've looked at dropout rates, for example, when we look at, why do clients come in for 1 or 2 sessions and never come back again? And, we would actually follow them up to try and ascertain what that is. Sometimes we do client surveys because the thing is, and that's just how it is, unless clients are in therapy, they won't get better. Unless clients are in session, sitting with their bums on that couch or chair in your room, you cannot make a difference in their lives. You cannot help them. So we need to know when we lose them, because we never want to be in a situation where we are inadvertently or advertently contributing to people having a negative experience in the mental health industry. I would just die if I knew that that's what I'm doing. And therefore we ask the question. All right, and very often people have different expectations of why it is that they're coming in, or what's going to happen in session 1 when they come in. And I often find that with clients, they expect you to immediately start giving them strategies. Okay, so it's really important that you engage in a process of psychoeducation with your clients. So let's say, especially with our child clients, very often parents think you're going to get in there with little Johnny, you're going to start working with him or her right from the start, which is not the case. So even when the client books in, reception will be telling them on the phone. It's in our welcome letter that gets sent out. But it's also your job that when you start your session, so let's say you've gone through the consent form, you've spoken about confidentiality, you've spoken about the cancellation and no-show fees, etc. All of that has been addressed and you're ready to start talking about why the client is here, that you go, all right, so this is what we're going to be doing today. So today is our called out intake session, and it's here for me to get as much information from you as possible. And then based on that information, we're going to draw up a plan to see how we can best work together. And then you get stuck into this, what it is that you need to do. If it is an adult client, I would lead with a very open-ended question like, so who's your doctor? Dr. Smith. Okay, so what's been happening later for you and Dr. Smith to decide that maybe you need to come and see a psychologist? And I let the client run with it. I do not have a questionnaire with 120 questions that I ask my clients. That's the one and only question I ask them. And from there, I just ask questions as it is relevant, whilst, carrying them and containing them within that person-centered approach, I guess, of unconditional positive regard, active listening, congruence, and all of that stuff that we need to do. That being said, I'm not a person-centered therapist, but I use that for engagement, to build the relationship, rapport, and then later on I'll get into the CBT, the ACT, TA, or whatever else it is needed by this client. Alrighty, so it's about setting the expectation. So let's say if it's a parent of a child, I would go, so today it's really important for me to talk to you guys as the parents and really get an extensive history of what's been happening for little Johnny, what he or she is struggling with, the school setting, all of that stuff, so that I have as much information as possible to come up with the best plan of action. And then at the end of today's session, I will spend probably 5 to 10 minutes with little Johnny, just to build some rapport. But next time when you come in, that's when the real work's going to start with him, so that clients know what to expect. You don't want them to sit there very often with unstated expectations. They won't tell you this is what we expect today, but it's in the back of their mind. And if you don't deliver, they might not come back. So you need to openly communicate what's happening today and what's going to happen at session 2 and beyond, so that they know what it is that they think they need is coming. Does that make sense? And why they might need to wait a session or 2 before that happens. So it's really that psychoeducation on the process of therapy. We need to really, again, stand in that conviction of your belief that we need to do it in this way to get the best possible outcome for the child. Very often, especially with parents and kids, parents wait until last minute, or they wait until the crisis hits, and they don't do it on purpose. It's just because their lives are hectic and chaotic. Especially, ask me, I've got 3 kids, and things just happen last minute, and then it's so bad they really want stuff done as soon as possible. And it's also important to reflect that, and have empathy with that they really want to fix these things as soon as they can for their child. But in order for us to really be able to fix it, we need to have a clear grasp of what is happening, and then come up with the best solution for this child, because we do not do a one-size-fits-all intervention. Your child is unique, is an individual, and we need to make sure we come up with the best possible plan. All right, very important stuff. First day client engagement. I've just touched on the person-centered approach. I think, for you to be successful in private practice, you need to know how to engage a client. Not only private practice, even public mental health. Unless you're able to engage a client in therapy, they're not going to either pitch up, arrive for their sessions, or even if they come, they're not going to be engaged and actually do what they need to do in session, and they won't be doing any homework. So the best approach and the best way is to follow a person-centered approach. Often during our interviews, when we are interviewing people just like yourself, one of the questions we ask is, what is your major strength as a psychologist or as a clinician? And I can tell you for certain, 9 out of 10 people tells me it's their ability to establish a relationship with their client. Now, you might have given us that same answer. And then often if I'm the one interviewing a new potential clinician, I would ask, how do you do that? And that is where a lot of people get stuck in terms of not being able to verbalize what that is. And, I think it's really important to be able to do that. And that is to know what you need to do on a daily basis to be able to do that. And that is that unconditional positive regard. Okay, it doesn't matter what you've done, what you've been through, where you come from. I accept you just as you are. I might not condone your behavior, but as a person, I'm not judging you. It's that reflective listening. Very often when clients don't come back, it's because you did not show reflective listening. You weren't empathic enough. All right. And then, so it's unconditional positive regard, reflective listening, and congruence. You as the therapist need to be congruent in the way that you operate, talk to them across all levels and over time in that therapeutic process. So important. Alrighty. So I'm saying here, why is engagement important? We've spoke about that. How do I do this? We've spoke about that. So what about all my questions? And I often find that, especially with new graduates, especially, you've been to uni, you've had your placements, maybe you've got a structured interview questions that you want to go get through, that's all okay. But what I want you to know is that those questions can wait, okay? You need to do the engagement first. If you get through all your questions, awesome. If you don't, it's not a train smash. You will not get in trouble with me or anybody else. Okay, you can ask all your additional questions that you didn't get through at subsequent appointments. Okay, the one thing you need to ask as a child psychologist in session 1 that you cannot leave for session 2 is whether there's any parenting orders, standing parenting orders, and if so, you need to get a copy of it. Okay, everything else can wait. All right. Then what you're also going to have with this module, of course, is a handout that's called Positioning in Session 1 for Optimal Client Engagement. Now, this is, I think it's a 3-page document, last time I checked, 3-page document that sets out even in more detail all of the stuff that you need to do. Now, please note that even though you've listened to this video, you still need to read through that handout because there's a lot of stuff in there that's not in this video. Especially the script, how to explain cancellation fees. There's like 2 possible scripts there that you can use and a lot of additional extras that I didn't go into here. So it's really important you have a read through that. Alrighty, so congratulations, both you and your client are now set for the best possible therapy outcome. I so hope that this was helpful. I hope that you've learned lots from this module, and all you need to do now is enjoy implementing what you've learned in module 1, and be sure to keep an eye out on the module 2 goodness that will be coming your way. Alrighty, thank you so much, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye.